It's time now for the Todd Leonard Show. Leave those negative stories behind as we focus on the positive and hear from those who give back and help others. Let's start your day with some inspirational stories. Now, here's your host, Todd Leonard.
Good morning, everyone. We have an incredible show for all of us today. I have Vicky and Elaina Wood here. Vicky Duffy and Elaina Wood, self-injury awareness, what we're going to be talking about today. You know, last week was just such an emotional show. I live in Morris County. I'm raising my family, and with everything going on, I just want to do my best to make sure we'll have an open dialogue about what's going on and really ways to help us all. So, ladies, first of all, thank you so much for, coming in this morning. I know it's a big day, March 1st is Self-Injury Awareness Day, and it means so much that you ladies are willing to come, here and talk open and freely about, what you're all about. And, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be here.
Yes. So ladies, before we started, you're probably wondering, oh my God, I saw this guy a few months ago, and here we are in the radio station. So, for the listeners, I met both of these ladies a few months ago in Mendham at the community club. There was sadly two teenagers had committed suicide, and the community was reeling. And, I attended this really poignant meeting with, people with expertise and just members of the community just trying to figure out what's going on. And, I really love people that are honest and real and that really talk about what's going on from their own perspective. Everybody lives the world the best they can, but they also realize, things are going on, and you got to talk about it. You got to get out there in the open and have an open and free conversation. So, ladies, let me, if I may, because it's always good for the listeners to get a little bit of your background. Vicky, where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey, born in Pennsylvania, lived there for 4 years, but predominantly New Jersey for my entire life. Currently reside in Parsippany.
Okay, and Elaina?
I was brought up in New Jersey, and I currently live in Mendham.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, ladies, for the listeners, self-injury awareness, candidly, I knew a little bit about it. I worked on a case years ago where sadly a girl was victimized and as a teenager, and she was cutting herself, and I really never even thought about it. But for the listeners, I think it's important for us to really to delve into it. So, Vicky, this self-injury awareness movement, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. March 1st of every year is Self-Injury Awareness Day, and it's a day where those that harm, cut, burn, any form of self-injury can pretty much have that feeling of safety and talk to people openly. Why just on that one day? It's kind of like, in a way, a holiday for us, where we can go out and just be open and honest. Now, someone who's currently harming may not feel that way. They may feel, I'm not showing anyone my scars, my current cuts, or anything that I have. But Self-Injury Awareness Day in itself is a day to wear orange. Orange is the self-injury awareness color. Wear an orange ribbon, orange wristband. And what it does, for the most part, people, especially when they know, you get that look. It'll be, okay, I see that scar there. I see all those wristbands covering that up, but I see that orange. That must mean something. And Self-Injury Awareness Day is really important to us as a self-injury support and resource center, where we can go out and talk to people, because for us, Self-Injury Awareness Day is every day. We celebrate it every day because it's so important that people know that they are not alone.
Right, and that's why, when I had you ladies the privilege to have you come on, it's wonderful, is to open and free communication about that, because a lot of people don't think about it, but unfortunately this is a real problem. Mm-hmm. Elaina, I wanted to, ask you a little bit about, obviously today's a poignant day, March 1st, it's an annual thing, but obviously, as Vicky highlighted, it's every day. I mean, it's not just today. I mean, I realize that, but tell us a little bit about what Self-Injury Awareness Day means to you.
Self-injury awareness day to me is very huge. I'm a former self-injurer. I am almost 4 years self-harm free. And I used to celebrate Self-Injury Awareness Day alone because I was scared of showing my scars. But now that on Self-Injury Day, I now share my scars and show my scars and share my story to others. I want to let others that they're not alone and that there is hope out there. And don't be ashamed. You know, there are people who understand.
Right, and you know, that's really courageous on your part, you know, for you to come in, and obviously you've been doing this for a number of years, so we're going to really delve into it, but to be open and honest about it's really courageous, because a lot of people suffer, and they do it silently, and I think that unfortunately, one thing can lead to another, and it's great that you're open and honest about it, because unfortunately, like I said, a lot of people just don't deal with it straight up, and I think that's the only way to deal with the problem is to be right out there and really talk about it. For the listeners, you know, I have this little sticker, launching point, love more, judge less. I mean, if we could all live our lives like that, I think we'd be way ahead of the game. So Vicky, how did this all start? Where did you decide that you were going to, I mean, you're very talented, but give us a little bit of the beginning of self-injury awareness and when you decided to, you know, put your heart and soul into this very important cause.
All right, let's go back, way back. The best way that I can answer that is simply that there was a need. And in 2001, I started going to hospitals, visiting teenagers and adults that had struggled with self-injury, local in New Jersey and then also in Pennsylvania. Just different people had heard that I had overcome, and so I kind of was like, well, let's go do something. Let's go help people. Me, myself, went out, and that kind of changed into, well, I want to do a little bit more, so I started a website called endallthepain.com, and that was great. However, a lot of people thought it was a way that I was instructing them to end their lives, and I got hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hits, and the internet was still relatively new at that time. And I said, no, endallthepain.com is actually about how to live your life. And it was a website that directed people to overcome self-injury. I created a self-injury brochure called Breaking the Silence of Self-Injury. And that was the beginning. August 1st, 2001, that website launched. And from that, over the next 3-4 years, I was getting phone calls from either therapists or doctors. What do we do with people? And I was like, excuse me, you should know what you're doing with them. And they said, no, after they're in our care and they're being, the intervention happens and they're getting the medication and the therapy, what then? What do we do with them? There's no support in New Jersey. There's no support in Pennsylvania. And at the time, there was a group in upstate New York. And I said, well, we need to have a support group. So on November 5th, 2005, I created the first self-injury support group in New Jersey. And in between that, I wanted to reach out to people in a way of a testimonial of, hey, I got through self-injury, you can too. No, that's really not what I'm about. We all meet people that have been through something, and that's their motto. I've been through it, you can get through it too. And there is truth to that, but that's not something I want to be about. I just want to share my story and say, you know what? I know what I went through, and I know how horrible it was.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, you know, you're so honest and upfront about, you know, what you've gone through and what you started. I'm always fascinated about, you know, what makes people do what they do. I always try to, you know, realize it could happen to anyone. People do go through things in life, but it's a matter of how you deal with it and how you help others, which I think is a blessing on your part in terms of starting something. So, you know, you started something years ago, and it's going strong, and this is all the way back in 2001, and then obviously in 2005, you really got committed to the self-injury awareness movement and created Launching Point.
Well, right before then, it was when the book, I decided to write a book called Breaking the Silence of Self-Injury, and that was self-published. And after that kind of launched a lot of interviews lot of talk shows and radio interviews about self-injury. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great, because it's not about me. I'm very comfortable talking, and but it was like, wow, this is going to get out there. People are going to understand it's not about children or teenagers. There's people that are 8, 10, 20, 30, 40 harming. And so then after that, the self-injury support group started. And then a year later, I said, more has to be done. We need to do more. And that's when Launching Point, 501c3 charity, was established officially in 2006, October 2006.
So, if I may, Elaina, obviously from your perspective,
yes.
And like I said, I really appreciate your candor with all of us. When you became aware of what you were going through, how were you able to kind of just get through that? Because one of the things I was telling you ladies before we started is, last 2 weeks in a row I've been talking about teen suicide. Mm-hmm. And because I live in the community, I'm raising my family in the community, I care so deeply about the community, I'm trying to get my hands around what we can do together to understand more what's going on and what we can do to prevent these tragedies. And it's all related to self-injury, and then sadly people end up killing themselves, which is a horrible thing, but unfortunately we have to talk about it. How did you get through that? And I don't want to, put you on the spot unnecessarily, but you're on the show. But for all of us, I mean, you're obviously going through a very difficult time. Mm-hmm. You were hurting yourself. And then how were you able to get past that where, you're doing well and, it's wonderful you're here sharing your story?
At first I was very silent. I hid that I was hurting myself for a very long time. And it wasn't until of having that support group to where other people understood. Therapy necessarily wasn't the answer for me, but it was being with a group of people who understood and being able to share different stories of what other people are going through and why they self-injured. And just having that backbone of the support, knowing that I am not alone, and that is what got me through it. Vicky started Beyond Bandages for Launching Point, and that was my backbone. That was my safety. That was my secondary home that helped me get through self-injury and to overcome it.
Right, and once again, I mean, you guys are a great team. When I met you in Mendham a few months ago, I could just see that kinship there for both of you ladies. For the listeners, as they get, they're tuning in right now, maybe, Vicky, you could tell us if you have a website and how they can reach out or learn more about your very important cause.
Yes, Launching Point. We are a self-injury support and resource center, and we offer support groups online and in person for 3 very important life issues: self-harm, which is self-injury, anything self-inflicted pain, such as stabbing, cutting, anything that's causing pain to yourself. We also have a support group for BFRB, body-focused repetitive behavior, and that's for skin picking, hair pulling. We also have a support group for suicide loss. It's called Healing Hearts, and that's for those that have lost a loved one or a friend to suicide. Each of those groups have their own website. They all direct to Launching Point. So the website is launchingpoint.org. And we also have a online talk show, and that is shareyourscars.com.
And once again, researching for you ladies to come in and learning more about it. I mean, obviously, Vicky, you're so dedicated to the cause. And, when I bring my guests on, I feel so privileged to meet so many wonderful people. I'm always interested in, what started. How did you decide you wanted to give back? You want to be involved? Because the whole show is about people just helping others. It's as basic as that. It's lifting up the community. But, a lot of people tune in, and I'm sure they want to do something, but they simply just don't do it. But, they feel it in the heart. But, you've actually been doing this for many years now. Where do you think you got that spirit to lift others up? Because once again, I mean, it's a big commitment. You've been doing it for so long. Where do you think you got that from?
I think for me, I'm a fighter. And there's a song called The Fight Song. I'm a fighter. And I believe that as a young girl, when some horrible things happened to me through my teenage years. I may have succumbed to self-harm. My first suicidal thought was when I was 8 years old. And my first harming was shortly after when I was 8 years old, because I was trying to keep from ending my life. I was trying to fight pain with pain. And as life went on, I didn't fight so well. I turned to alcohol, dabbled in drugs. Obviously, self-harm was a huge component, and other unhealthy things. When I turned that corner, if you will, developed a faith in God, and I realized, okay, after several suicide attempts, one was a very serious one where my mom was there and intervened, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. It was then, after a year of being constantly in and out of psychiatric units, that I said no more. And this was before I held a faith in God. I was just kind of like out there, like, I'm not doing it, meaning I'm not doing this up and down anymore. I really didn't have any answers at that point, but I'm a fighter. And I think that fighting kept pushing me forward until I got to the point where I was in and out of therapy. And but once I developed a faith in God, it was kind of like I got this clarity. And it didn't mean like poof, all of a sudden everything was better, but it gave me this hope, and I was able to see clearly. But for me, I don't quit. Like a weeble wobble, push me down, I come right back up. So for me, it was fighting. I'm a fighter, and I want people to know that they matter. Every person. You hear stories of, it's just one person. When the support group started on November 4th of 2005, do you know how many people showed up?
I would imagine not as many as today.
0. And it was 6 months in the making. In the summer of 2005, I had, created the group and everything and advertised it as much as possible. And I did not look at that as a hopeless situation. I said, okay, they're being prepared to come. The next week we had 1 person. The following week, 2 people. Within a year, we had 12 people coming regularly. So it's not about you need these numbers and it's about helping one person. One time we had a recovery program at Launching Point that I was leading, and 1 person showed up. I taught that lesson and had that night as if there was 100 people in the room, because that individual matters. And that's what it is. So if someone's sitting at home or they're driving in their car and like, I want to get involved, I want to do something, that's exactly it. Do something. We all need each other. We're all linked together in a way. One of our slogans is every person is part of the puzzle. And if you've ever done a puzzle and you have 1 piece left, the puzzle looks heinous. It just doesn't look good. But as soon as you put that 1 piece in there, the picture looks beautiful. That's us. We are all connected, and it's all vital that we do give back and we do help in any capacity we can.
Well, you're truly a blessing, Vicky. Just to hear you just, letting everybody know a little bit more about who you are and what you're all about. But God bless you for starting out as an army of one, and the organization's really grown. The last few weeks, I had Wendy and Stephen Sefcik on, who talked about, sadly, their teenage son, TJ, at 16, lost his life to suicide. And then recently, last week, we had Diane Grossman, another just incredible person, lost her beloved daughter, Mallory, at age 12 as a result of bullying, and sadly, she ended her life. And you ladies being so real, it just means so much to me, and hopefully the listeners, that you're out there and you're telling your story, because everybody goes through stuff in life. It's a matter how you do with the support you have. Elaina, let me ask you this, because, Vicky just shared a very, intimate part of her life, and I know you went through a lot, but you got through it. And one of the things is you got through it. And for the listeners, people can get through it, but you need help. You need a hand up. You need to be able to talk about it. What do you think was the ultimate reason why you could just get through that pain, pain and doing what you were doing? which is incredibly strong for you to talk about it. But do you think there was something like a turning point where it was enough and I'm going to get through this?
I am a suicide attempt survivor, and I was in the ICU for 3 days. And I think seeing that look on my family's face, in particular my mom, that's when I really was like, okay, I need to seek some help because I cannot do this alone anymore. And I've been at my lowest low, and this is why I want to give back now. And I mean, I was in and out of therapy. I was in and out of IOPs, and being in the ICU, and I'm glad that I failed.
Well, I'm happy. Believe me, we're all happy here. You're all here, you and Vicky. I mean, certainly, I'm not familiar. What's an IOP? I don't know what that means.
Intensive outpatient.
Right. So, I mean, you did the therapy, and at some point you hit rock bottom, but thankfully you're with us, and you're telling your story today,
yes,
which is vitally important because, once again, you know, I'm trying to figure out, get my hands around what can we do to educate the public, because there's a lot of people feeling pain, and I really do believe this. You know, everybody puts on their best face, but you really don't know what's inside.
That's
and
right.
And you know, because I care so deeply about the community, and I'm learning more about what's been going on, and it's a huge eye-opener to me. I'm sure many, because we live in such an affluent area and we can't understand what's going on, but there's a lot of pain there, and people need a hand up, and we got to talk about it. How did you ladies meet? Because I love the teamwork. You know, I met you ladies a few months ago. I'm like, that's a team that I really respect. How'd that all happen?
Basically, Elaina walked into the doors of Launching Point, coming to the self-injury support group the last week of December, first week of January. And if you ask her, she'll say I didn't like her for the first 6 months. So we're not going to let her tell that story. But the truth of it is, at that point we had so many people coming, and you know, there's no one person. This is not the Vicky Duffy Club. This isn't the Vicky Club. This is Launching Point. We're all about people. Every person is part of the puzzle. At that time, it was me just trying to get everything going and really didn't have anybody there to assist, although people did help out. There were people that were helping and so forth, but Elaina had come in and she was gung-ho, and I, without verbalizing it, was, that's great that you had this tenacity. You're here to overcome self-injury. Let's get that together, because that's basically my message. I'm a big believer in broken crayons. Broken crayons, they may not look as appealing as the pretty packaged, wrappered ones, but they color just as well. And it's always unstated with me that it's all about your walk, your recovery, and getting yourself healed and so forth. So when she had come, I didn't really see her as somebody who was going to, be side by side, but over the years, and she had worked on some different things, because when you come in with self-injury, it's kind of like when you see a tree, and it looks beautiful on the outside and great, and then if you could see the underground, you would see all the roots and see how much is down there. And that's what it is with self-inflicted violence, is that we're just not harming to harm. There's a reason. So what's that root? What is it? What's getting down to it? So Elaina had shared probably 6-8 months after attending the support group that she really wanted to volunteer and help out. We started getting involved in festivals, and I'm sure you're going to ask me about that later, so we'll get into that later. And fast forward a couple years after that, she really started proving herself. She worked on a couple issues that she had, and I'm not going to share them unless she wants to, but she had overcome self-injury, and around 2015-16, we moved from Florham Park to Rockaway, and we're in a new location now in Boonton. But I had seen a change, a confidence in her when we would speak to people and go to festivals and this interaction. And she just naturally was assisting me without me asking, without me, and she has a great personality, and we do mesh well together, even though she's half my age. But it's fun, and she brought that fun to me. That's one thing we do at Launching Point. It's such a serious, dark topic. We always have fun. All the volunteers, we have a great group of people that are just there and dedicate their time when they're not working. So Elaina came along, and I just said, listen, I think we're a pretty good team, and I know you have a full-time job that you love, and we're not at a place to obviously pay, and it just kind of happened. It just connected and flowed, and that's brought us together to her to kind of know. She knows what it needs to happen, and I said, I want ideas. Like, I say this to everyone in the group. If you have an idea, that's great. Go work on it and then bring back so we can work on it together. It's not just give me your idea and then I figure it out. So Elaina actually had said, I believe there's a need for body-focused repetitive behavior, something I struggled with for years. I'm constantly saying, stop pick, don't pick. She goes, that doesn't help when you say that. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize it. So there's a lot there's a lot I could say to answer that, but she brings a youngness, a freshness, and I'm just glad that she pressed through the couple of years to get through those bumps that she was facing, because now what she's bringing to Launching Point is just incredible.
Yeah, like I said, you ladies just make a great team. How many members are there now at part of this Launching Point?
People that attend the groups probably varies between 6 to 10 right now actively, and the volunteers that we have may be different than those that actually attend, but we have probably a good solid 4 to 6 volunteers. So a big shout out to Kevin, Caitlin, and Brittany.
Right, and that's wonderful. You brought up something that was kind of interesting to me, is that, you started out and you didn't know if you're going to have anybody that would resonate with, right? And it's really grown, and you put your heart and soul in it, and now you and Elaina are a team, and so many other folks. You just mentioned a few of the volunteers, and God bless them for stepping up and being part of the solution, because this is the other thing that it's easy for people to identify a problem, but it's like, how do you fix it? Yeah. And that's why, like, you ladies coming on today, and we're talking about something. Look, it's painful to talk about, but it has to be spoken about, because both you ladies are survivors. Right. And once again, I love people that get up off the canvas, because you never know when you're going to get clobbered. It could happen at any moment, but you get up and you make the world better, and you lift yourself up in the process, which I think is wonderful. Elaina, I was going to ask about your perspective on this. So, you and Vicky have been together, as a team, and met many other volunteers and reaching out, but what was that like when you first started to feel that bond developing between you two?
It felt really, really good. Like I said, I was always very scared of sharing my story, and I was very shameful at first. And at first attending the group, I didn't open up as much, and I was kind of like a turtle in a shell. But seeing other people in the group and seeing Vicky, hold this support group on her own, I'm like, wow, like, she is such an inspiration, and I want to be like that, and I want to open up. And it maybe took me a year or so to really fully open up. This is only my second time, like, public speaking, so but I have been at my low, and I know what it's like to be alone. So I want to be out there. I want to show my scars, share my story, and let them know that they are not alone, and I know what it's like. So, open up. There are people who understand.
Right. We're going to be right back in 30 seconds with Vicky Duffy and Elaina Wood. A very, very important discussion this morning.
The Todd Leonard Show is sponsored by the Leonard Foundation, whose mission is to support the children and families who are battling pediatric cancer and those in need of food and assistance, women's shelters, and other important social services in the community. They also proudly support those fighting pancreatic cancer. They feel it's vitally important to help those in need in our amazing community when they need us the most. Please join them in extending a helping hand and go to leonardcharity.org and donate now. Together, we can touch many lives.
So ladies, once again, thank you. I mean, we're having such a great conversation. So for the listeners, I want to talk a little bit more about Launching Point and the services that are available for the folks, because we all know people that are going through a hard time, and it's wonderful you're sharing your personal stories and lifting us all up in the process. So, Vicky, for those that are, wondering what services are available through Launching Point, what's out there? If somebody's listening and they want to, I don't know how often you have the support group meetings, but can you tell us a little bit more about, what's available and what goes on with you and Elaina and your wonderful volunteers?
Absolutely. We're currently located in Boonton. 408 Main Street. We're right off Main Street. Suite 101. We have 4 suites there. And people can go to launchingpoint.org and see all that we offer. But a couple things that we offer is, I mentioned earlier, the support group. We have a support group for self-harm. That's the first and third Thursday of every month. We also have the body-focused repetitive behavior group. That is the third Thursday of every month. And we have the suicide loss support group, which is the second Friday of the month. Those 2 groups, even the self-harm group, we also add groups as needed. We've seen an increase in the need for the suicide loss group, which is called Healing Hearts. So we're adding more groups. But it's at least once a month for the other 2 groups. And the self-harm groups, we have activities. We all know that we can talk, and talking is good. We want to, show our scars, share our stories. It's very important to get it out there. We also need to have fun and give back. So what we do is activities for anyone that attends anything at Launching Point. We have activity nights. We'll go bowling. One of our volunteers is a manager at a golf place, mini golf place, so we'll do activities there. We will do pizza nights and movie nights, and it's about getting everyone together. Because what brings us together, the commonality is I self-harm, or I pick, or I have lost somebody to suicide. It brings us together. We may be so different, but how we're coping and what we're struggling with brings us together. So we offer 3 different support groups. We have an online support group as well. We have a online talk show called Share Your Scars. Share Your Scars. We all have scars. You may not be someone, and I'm talking to someone right now, from the perspective of you may not be harming. You may say, I'll never harm myself, but maybe you're eating so much that you're hurting yourself. Maybe you're punching yourself. Maybe you're talking bad things to yourself. Maybe you're doing something else that's not fueling you for success. That is, in my opinion, a form of maybe not necessarily self-harm, but it's going to destroy you, and it's destructive, a destructive way of life. We have an online support group for that. We have the talk show that we do online is all about self-injury. And someone asked me, said, how can you have a talk show about self-injury? And I said, pick a topic, any topic. And they said, what do you mean? I said, that's exactly how it's connected. You have a death in the family. It could be, well, I have a choice to harm or not harm. And I say a choice because everything to a degree is a choice. And we'll talk very candidly about things. If people were assaulted, that's a reason they would harm. If somebody lost a loved one or they lost a job, it's amazing, all these life issues. Some of us have had the ability to create healthy coping skills. Others have not. So some of the things that we offer is what I mentioned. We also have the book I had written called No More Pain, Breaking the Silence of Self-Injury. We make that available. We also go to schools, churches to speak. We speak publicly, and we have seminars, open houses throughout the year. And 90% of what we do is offered at no fee. If you come to the support group, if you join us at a festival, there's no cost to do anything like that. The reason we charge a fee to speak is because obviously hours and hours and hours of preparation and putting into these programs. But also it goes back to Launching Point. We are a 501c3, and we do not receive any outside funding. So our products we'll talk about a little bit later, I'm sure, and any donation here and there go to our charity. But as far as what we do, we will go and speak. We have most of the speaking we do, we don't get any financial compensation for the charity. We just go because I just want to help people. And Elena's like, okay, this one's 2 hours away. Should we go? I'm like, absolutely. So we'll use our own money for gas and own resources. But that's just a little bit of what we do.
So for the people that want to donate or volunteer, how do they reach you? What's your website?
www.launchingpoint.org, and you scroll to the bottom, you'll see a donation picture, and there's also a link on the top of the page for donations.
So, Elaina, you brought up something, where you felt alone for a long period of time, and unfortunately were hurting yourself, and obviously it's a blessing you got through that, and you're helping others. What's that experience like now that you get in front of some folks and you get a chance to share your personal story? Because once again, that's just very courageous to be so open and to be able to share your experience, because people go through stuff. What is that like?
So, when I share my experience with other people, it does allow them to open up to me, which is very good. I've had some personal connections with certain people, either at festivals or at malls when we go with our literature. And, I'll give my phone number out. I'll say that I'm here for you. And hearing their story and having them hear my story, having that personal connection is really good. So knowing that I am giving that little bit of hope to someone, it really brightens up my day, and I'm sure it brightens up their day. So just having that connection and support with others is really great.
Yeah, once again, people go through, you never know what's going on in someone's head or what they're going through in life. And it's wonderful to, lend a hand up and lift their spirits. But because of what you've gone through and you've triumphed over such difficulties, both of you ladies really must be inspirational folks that are going through that. I wanted, maybe, Elaina, you could just talk a little bit about maybe some of the warning signs or symptoms if someone, you're not sure if they're self-inflicting injuries to themselves, because, like you said, I had a case years ago and I didn't really understand the disease and why people do that to get out of the pain. But are there things that we should be looking out for our loved ones?
There could be quite a few warning signs. Isolation is definitely a big one. Long sleeves in hot weather. Like one thing that I did, I played softball in the summer and I would wear long sleeves. So that's definitely a warning sign. Wearing a ton of bracelets, that's a warning sign. Not going out with your friends, not eating. There's a whole wide spread of warning signs that could go on.
Right, and that's, I think, important for the listeners. And I know, Vicky, obviously you have a lot of expertise on the subject. You've been doing this for all these years as well. Anything else that, what Elaina just touched on that you want to add about just some of the warning signs or symptoms? Because I think it's important for the listeners, because they may have a loved one. They don't even appreciate what's going on in terms of, wait a minute, maybe that's a warning sign. And because of the tragedies locally and really throughout the great country that we live in, we have to keep an eye on these things, because I would expect that there's normally some warning signs before people end up getting involved in these self-destructive behaviors and sadly end up losing their life also.
Right. Just to kind of piggyback on what Elaina said, is long sleeves in hot weather. The reason that would be a red flag is if they're harming or cutting on their arms. It also could be long pants in hot weather. And the wristbands would be to cover up any cuts or scratches or burns that would be on the arm. Some of the interesting, what I call red flags, are your attire, how you're dressing. Back in the day, I'm going to age myself here, but I dressed as Boy George for 2 years. And back in that time, there wasn't emo or any kind of... That was a red flag. I was trying to draw attention away from me by taking on this persona and hiding all the pain that was going on with me. So if you see a teenager or a loved one or a young adult that has drastically changed their appearance, could be something's going on. Now, is it self-harm? It may not be, but it may be something that's leading to that. Elaina also said isolation. Isolation is huge. When you're alone with your thoughts. You're alone with you. And sometimes that's not a good place to be. And the other warning sign is, what kind of music are you listening to? Did you change from listening to encouraging type of music to rage and anyone that's listening, I'm not against any type of music. I'm saying songs and lyrics that talk about harming yourself and that you're no good and that these things get into our heart and our minds. So those are a little bit of red flags. What a person's reading, the type of movies, what they're searching on the internet, what are they looking for? They start looking up different ways to harm, different videos, different movies that are about. These are all some red flags and some warning signs that parents, friends, adults really need to pay attention to.
Right. I mean, this is once again why it's great your ladies are on to share your own personal experience and really for all of us to work together so we can help each other out. I mean, people are suffering, they're in pain. Elaina, in terms of your involvement, you've been doing this for years now, and what's your perception when you go and, let's say, into a community you're not that familiar with and you tell your story? What's that experience like? Because you're really going before strangers. They don't really know you. What is that like?
At first it can be really nerve-wracking because you don't know exactly what you're walking into. But, I kind of go there and I kind of blindfold myself, so to speak, and I just kind of, go with the flow, and whatever I say comes out. And I just speak from my heart and what I've been through, knowing that other people that do need to hear this.
I think it's a wonderful thing you're able to share, because I'm sure people listening right now, folks that have gone through it, they may themselves as a youngster may have gone through it as well. Vicky, also from your perspective, I mean, I know you've been doing this for, a launching point over 14 years, and today's a big day. It's March 1st, which is, an annual thing for your wonderful organization. What's it like for you? You go into a community and you may not have roots there. I mean, obviously you're part of the community, but like you go to a new town and you're telling your story. What's that like?
It's very inspiring to know you can go somewhere else. They've asked you, invited you in, and that's the key. You're being invited. My personality and how I'm wired is to go in, not save the day, but to go in and talk, get everyone encouraged, tell them what they can do, don't focus on what you can't do, and kind of get everyone rattled, and then I go. And the reason I say it like that is because it's like, okay, but wait, you also run support groups and you're there day in and day out and day in and day out. I don't necessarily want to fix anyone. Me personally, I want to provide, like on the table here, we have some stickers and lanyards and pins to show who we are. Let's call those tools. I want to provide people with the tools and say, okay, this is what you can do to overcome self-injury. This is what you can do to avoid the thoughts of suicide. This is what you can do, and give examples. It's up to you. It's up to that person. I could be speaking to 10 people or 500 people. It's up to them to take those tools and apply them to their lives.
Right. So, I mean, you brought a lot of different items with you. I just touched on a little bit with the launching point, love more, judge less, which I think we all have to live by that. But what else do you have? You have a lot of different items in here. I see a lot of different things you brought with you. Launching
Point is a self-injury support and resource center. And a few years ago, several people had said, hey, we need to create some buttons. And I'm like, no. And then, no, I really didn't say no, but I said, I don't know. And so in 2007, 8, and 9 were our first times where we went to festivals. We went to music festivals and set up with our literature and tried to get out there and show people who we are. And over the years, it changed to, or not changed, but transformed into inspiring messages. I'm always thinking, something's always going on in my mind. How can we help? How can we get to people? people. And through our inspiring messages, that's how. So what we did is a few years ago, we created Love More, Judge Less, which is our online store at lovemore-judgeless.com or shoplovemorejudgeless.com. And that's an entity of Launching Point. Love More, Judge Less was a saying that I came up with right in the beginning around 2001. And I said, we've just got to love people more and judge them less, because we all judge whether we want to or not. And we have to fight it sometimes. Go, no, you can't judge a book by its cover, Grandma's saying. So what we have here today is I brought in a sampling of our stickers. We have 12 different stickers with different messages: Imperfectly Perfect, Love More, Judge Less, You Are Not Alone, I Choose Happy. We also have buttons. We started with how many, Elaina?
I think 12.
Okay. Originally, we had 4 1-inch buttons, and then when Elaina came on board, we turned to 12. We now have over 105 1.25-inch buttons with inspiring sayings such as be your own kind of beautiful, I choose happy, you are not your past, Love More, Judge Less, of course. We also have lanyards that say Love More, Judge Less. I mentioned the stickers. We have bumper stickers, and we also have magnets. And these products were created to inspire people. So we will go to festivals. We will set up shop, and you'll see a banner that says Love More, Judge Less, and a small logo about Launching Point, Self-Injury Support and Resource Center. Because let's face it, if we go, hey, we're here about suicide loss and we're here about self-injury, people are going to keep on walking, and they did. So 4 years ago, I said, we've got to change what we're doing. We got to put the message, Love More, Judge Less, and teeny tiny letters on who we are. And that was it. People would come over. People talk to us. I see this Love More, Judge Less. What's it all about? I used to self-harm. I just had a suicide attempt. People talk to us. They come over, and it's just been an incredible thing. I call Love More, Judge Less the back door to Launching Point. It's allowed people to access us through a different way. So then they'll say, do you have groups? Do you have support? What do you offer? So through our products, this is how we fund what we do. And unfortunately, not to be a negative Nelly, it's just not enough to help us do what we do. We do need consistent giving. When we're in festival season, which is April through November, we probably do 150 to 200 buttons per festival, and that's really not a lot when you consider they're $1 a piece. So we just want to keep doing what we do and sending the positive messages of hope. And when people purchase these things, they're supporting a charity, and they're also helping themselves and someone else. We have people who buy 50 at a time once a year, and they'll put them in a jar in their therapy office, and they have them right there for people to take. So these are kind of something that you can pay it forward. Buy 2, buy 1 for yourself, pass it on. Elaina, anything you want to say about the products?
No, I think you pretty much said it all.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, even just a little kind gesture like that is a wonderful thing. I had the D'Amicos on, and they started this Kindness for Christopher movement, and putting the smiley face out there could really lift someone's spirit. Even a small little thing like that, you really don't know the impact it's going to have. Elaina, if you'll permit, how is this organization, Launching Point, impacted your life? I mean, you're getting more perspective. You've been involved a number of years. You're a survivor. You're a fighter. You're a winner in my book every day to be able to just do your thing. I mean, it's incredible, the strength that you have. And for the listeners, I mean, it takes a lot to share these kind of personal stories, because a lot of people are private, and it's great that you're able to be so forthright. But how's it impacted your life, your involvement with this organization?
Well, I started coming to Launching Point 6 years ago now, and I've been volunteering for 5. Like I said in the beginning, this Beyond Bandages, the support group, is what stopped me from self-injuring. It wasn't the therapy. It wasn't the hospital visits. It was this support group. It was the backbone of it. And now I'm here, volunteering as my second full-time job as I take it. And my goal is to help others break the silence of their own self-injury. Because it's not easy, and I was there. It took me a little while to break my own silence of it. And the impact that Vicky had herself on me was just impeccable. And just having the other support group members there, and I've really grown out of my shell, and I'm so happy that I'm here now.
Well, I'm happy you're here, too. I mean, I think it's wonderful just how courageous and how you stood up, and you've gotten through a very difficult, challenging time with the help of Launching Point, which really is a wonderful thing to be able to really share your personal story. But even just as important, if not more, is you're volunteering, you're giving back, and you've taken something so difficult, and now you're helping others. Vicky, in terms of your just view of the universe now, I mean, you started something almost 20 years ago. Did you ever think you'd be so involved in something like this? We're looking almost 2 decades now.
I'm such an overthinker, but I don't think about that. I just saw a need. I can do it. Let's go for it. Failure to me is when you give up or quit. Failure isn't making a mistake. I have a lot of ideas. Elaina will tell you, the group members will tell you. I will constantly say, I have an idea. I just thought of something, and they kind of roll their eyes like, oh gosh, where's this going? Not all of my ideas are good ideas, but I'm willing to try every single one of them if it's going to bring some sort of result and some sort of help for someone.
Well, I think it's, you just touched on is, it's important to be innovative. You have to think of ways to improve everything you're doing in life. Elaina, if I may, because you obviously have to balance your full-time job, and then you're giving back so importantly, and you're saving lives, and same thing with you, Vicky. I mean, what you ladies do, you save lives, and I'm hoping my show would hopefully, God willing, if someone was in despair or don't know what to do, maybe they'll reach out to their parents or their friends or whoever it might be and look for the help they really need. How do you balance it, Elaina? How does that work for you?
At first it was a little bit difficult to balance, doing Launching Point and, being with my family and working. But, I'm very, very thankful for my job. I currently work at Trader Joe's in Florham Park. And they really respect my schedule, that when I take off for festivals, they are very supportive with that and are very understanding. And I'm like, look, during, April to November, there's going to be a lot of weekends I'm going to be taking off, and they're very accepting of that. So I'm very appreciative of that. My mom and one of my sisters are very supportive. They're always there for me. They come out to certain festivals and help me with Launching Point and support me there. So, I found a good balance there.
Once again, you're an amazing young lady, and to be able to do what you're doing is just, really important. What's more important than helping others, especially those that are in pain, that you're giving them a roadmap to get through it? Because, you just shared with us how Launching Point and Vicky and the wonderful support group was able to help lift you up. All the other therapies, everything else, unfortunately, wasn't solving the problem. And through Launching Point, it really made a huge difference in your life. Yeah. So, Vicky, for you, you got to balance, right? You got a family. How does that work with the balancing?
Balance. You're right. It is all about balance. When I started this in 2001, I was working full-time at Tiffany & Company, and then I continued full-time after that. So I was balancing what are we going to do with the group? The group takes place at night. My son was just born at the time in 2005. So my husband said, all right, have the group at night, and then you can go there, have the group, you'll be good. And initially when I started the support group, it was just going to be, it was the first and third Friday back then. It was just going to be twice a month. I didn't really think anything further. So now, over the last several years, we've had the group every Thursday we do either an activity or a group. So it's changed, and you kind of ride the wave. And as my son has grown, and being in grade school, then middle school, then high school, the needs have changed. There was a time where I could be at Launching Point while he was at school. That's not so much now. So it's basically just looking at the priorities of life and what those are, making sure that you have those priorities correct. I can't put Launching Point first on top and expect everything else to work. So everything else does fall together. So now our groups, how I balance it is they take place at night. So we have Thursday and Friday nights, and then we have the weekends for festivals. My husband will be with my son. Of course, my son's a lot older now, so he's in sports, so they'll do stuff together, and they're kind of like their own little team, and they support me in me supporting other people. So it does work out really well. And then we also have volunteers that will come together to help.
Right. Well, once again, I realize the commitment you've made almost for 20 years is really remarkable, and it's a tribute to you and what you're all about. To lift yourself up, I know you've fallen, but you keep on getting up and just doing your thing, which is really incredible, and that's strong, and that's really inspirational, because talking about something so difficult, but it's so uplifting, because you ladies have been able to triumph over it, which is really important. Mm-hmm. Elaina, for the listeners, before we conclude the wonderful show, about volunteerism and getting involved in the community, you have any insights on that?
Look, if you're here listening and you know someone who is struggling, or yourself, or a friend of a friend, reach out to us. We're here. Like Vicky said, launchingpoint.org. We do look for volunteers, here and there. So, let us know.
Once again, ladies, I'm just so honored that you came in. I met you a few months ago. I just came up to you because I was just struck by your humanity and willingness to share your story, because that really is courageous. But I mentioned this a little while ago. You ladies are saving lives, because everybody needs a hand up at times. Everybody could be down or lonely, not knowing where to turn. And your organization hopefully will put the spotlight on folks. You're out there. You're there to help out, because we're all really in this together. And that's the beauty of folks like you that just give back. You have your own lives, you work, but you find time to make such a difference in the community, because what's more important than someone's hurting? They need help. Mm-hmm. And folks don't know where to turn sometimes, and the parents, their loved ones, their spouses mean the best, or their siblings, but sometimes you got to go into an organization like what you offer, and it changes the trajectory of the person's life, because they see it from another perspective, someone who's gone through it.
Absolutely. It's
one thing for me to say, hey, go to Launching Point if you need it, but when they meet with you ladies, and you're survivors, and you're fighters, and you're making the world a better place. So God bless both of you, and please keep on doing what you're doing, because it really does save lives. I do these shows every Sunday. It's been very serious the last few weeks. Have been, painful, but also uplifting for the listeners, because it has to be told. There's pain in the community, but there's so many wonderful people out there like yourselves making a difference. So God bless you. Keep on doing what you're doing. And next week, we're going to have Judith Pedersen and Hearts of Hope, another wonderful person lifting up the community. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Look forward to speaking with you next Sunday. Take care.